Take a look at this island. Something weird is happening here. The UK handed power to a party no one actually likes. And if you zoom in, London's falling apart. And now, the most dangerous man in British politics is back. Westminster has a very real Nigel Farage problem. But depending on who you ask, that problem might look very different.
Jeremy Corbyn has gone on social media to say it's time for a new kind of political party, one that belongs to you. And it is called Your Party.
How much of a threat do you think this is to Keir Starmer and the Labour government?
Well, I think it's a big threat. They're slightly less popular than cholera.
The Labour Party is full of control freaks who want to control whatever goes on within the party.
Keir Starmer, since the general election, is at 67% unfavourable and 23% favourable.
You do accept, though, that it gives Nigel Farage a much better chance of becoming Prime Minister?
If anyone made it easier for Nigel Farage to become Prime Minister, it certainly wasn't Jeremy Corbyn. On the contrary, it was Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. And there are three reasons why. First, the sabotage of Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party, from inside Labour itself and from powerful forces outside. The second, being the party's sharp turn towards policies that alienated its own base once Corbyn was ousted. And the third reason, closely tied to the second, is the moral and political disaster that is Labour's current stance on Gaza. But we begin with sabotage. And from the moment Corbyn became leader, Labour's own machinery turned against him. This was a party that would rather wreck itself than be led by someone who threatened the status quo. Corbyn wasn't just defeated, he was systematically undermined. Every leak, every whisper, every so-called scandal was designed to brand him as unelectable, as dangerous, and as toxic.
You've also said each day I try and think of ways to undermine Jeremy Corbyn.
I did say that, yes.
Well, that was a mistake, wasn't it?
Well, no, I wasn't alone amongst people who found his performance disappointing.
If he'd had your backing, he might have done a lot better.
Well, he might have done.
For the first 2.5 years of his leadership, Jeremy Corbyn was obliged to work with a General Secretary who was hostile to him and ran a party machinery which was hostile to him.
I've never worked in an environment that was so sort of toxic and toxic and unfriendly. I remember, for example, the first time I went and walked around HQ, and we were just walking around one of the floors, and it just goes deathly silent.
From the moment Jeremy Corbyn was elected, he faced complete opposition and resistance from the party's staff, people who are paid to do the work of the party. The senior staff of the Labour Party were operating a different strategy from that which the leadership, the democratically elected leadership, had decided upon. So they were sabotaging, if you like, the democratic will of the party.
And there we have it. Multiple senior figures inside the Labour Party openly admitting they were working against their own elected leader. Staff on the payroll actively undermining the movement they were meant to serve. And all while the public was building the biggest political party in Europe. But that was only half the picture, because while the sabotage inside Labour was hidden behind closed doors, another front opened in plain sight. In the press, on TV, across the airwaves, in newspaper headlines, anti-Semitism was weaponized and deployed as a political weapon. Anti-Zionism was blurred into anti-Semitism. Solidarity with Palestinians was reframed as hatred towards Jews. Facts and context pushed aside for a single damaging narrative. And when the media joined in, those panorama documentaries, front page headlines, endless cycles of accusations. This wasn't accountability, it wasn't journalism, it was the external counterpart to Labour's internal war. A campaign designed to make Corbyn unelectable.
In light of his comments made today and his failure to retract them subsequently, the Labour Party has suspended Jeremy Corbyn pending investigation.
It's worth noting that the man who suspended Jeremy Corbyn was the man who replaced him, Keir Starmer.
We have failed Jewish people, our members, our supporters, and the British public. If you're anti-Semitic, you should be nowhere near this party, and we'll make sure you're not. There are still those who think there's no problem with anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, that it's all exaggerated or a factional attack. Then frankly, you are part of the problem too.
This is the same man who said he supports Zionism without qualification. So of course Keir Starmer would conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism.
Lots of Jewish people were among the enthusiasts for Jeremy Corbyn. It's Jeremy and his supporters who were being absolutely demonised and vilified in the media. The idea that Jew equals Zionist and that anti-Zionism equals anti-Semitism is dangerous, it's reprehensible, it's an abomination to me.
And if you're a bit shocked by all of this and you're thinking, hold on a minute, this is the Labour Party, they're meant to be on the supposed left of the political spectrum and support the people, I wouldn't blame you for thinking that. But I think it's time we go on a bit of a history lesson.
The Labour Party has always leaned pro-Israel, whether the party was in power or not. That was until September 2015, when Jeremy Corbyn became leader of the party by a landslide.
A better Britain, a more equal Britain, a more decent Britain.
He ran on a socialist platform that got 200,000 people to join the party just to support him.
Yes, we did! Yes, we did!
He also happened to be a lifelong campaigner for Palestinian rights.
And we will not allow our governments to go on with this cosy, law-breaking relationship with this rogue state that is destroying the lives of so many people.
But crucially, it wasn't just the media and the party's right wing pushing the anti-Semitism narrative. It was Israel and its lobby too. They were horrified by the idea of Jeremy Corbyn, a vocal supporter of Palestinian rights and a critic of Israel's crimes, becoming the British Prime Minister.
We make demands of no arms supplies to Israel. We make demands for recognition of the rights of the Palestinian people.
The Israel lobby in the UK told the media establishment here jump, and their reply was how high.
Just say sorry.
Wait a minute. I and our party.
No, just say sorry.
Come on, let me say. Can I say something?
Well,
our party.
I want you to say sorry.
And our party and me.
Yeah.
Do not accept anti-Semitism in any form.
So are you sorry for anything that's happened?
Honestly, I don't think jump and how high is a good enough analogy for this. They're lecturing him like a child. They're actually berating him. What do you mean, I want you to say sorry? Like, this is an interview with a leader of the opposition and you're talking to him like a principal and a second grade child.
The UK Labour Party has been hit by accusations of anti-Semitism in recent months, especially against its leader, Jeremy Corbyn. His fellow Labour MP, Margaret Hodge, who lost members of her family in the Holocaust, said Corbyn was an anti-Semitic racist, while 3 of the main Jewish newspapers in the UK described him as an existential threat to British Jews. The Labour leader has been accused of sharing platforms with Holocaust deniers and making offensive remarks about British Zionists. His supporters, though, argue that Corbyn is a lifelong anti-racist and that the attacks against him are smears designed to discredit his strong support for Palestinians and prevent criticism of Israel.
The media in the UK was so subservient to the Israel lobby that BBC Panorama, remember this is the nation-state broadcaster meant to be impartial, did a documentary attacking the leader of the opposition.
BBC Panorama's damning film on Labour's handling of anti-Semitism is the culmination of 3 years' hostile media coverage.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! You're failure!
I am heartbroken and disgusted that the party that I joined over a decade ago is now institutionally racist.
The BBC has used its market monopoly and might as a public broadcaster to run a biased political agenda. It's not a programme about anti-Semitism, it's a hit piece.
And there you have it. They tried to bury him. In leaks, in lies, in headlines. But the story didn't end there. Because the truth, the whole truth, can't be told about Corbyn. It has to be told by Corbyn.
During my leadership of the party, I suffered more sustained personal abuse than any other leader of any political party has ever suffered. The bias against every policy that we put forward, knowing full well that those policies were themselves popular. The media in Britain is dominated by 2 factors. One is the billionaire ownership of all of the major papers, or the self-censorship by the so-called liberal media as well, who are more interested in kowtowing to what they perceive to be the British establishment than they are standing up against it. The media is serving its function, which is to maintain the status quo within our society. Many vested interests in Britain didn't want any of this. Many global interests didn't want this. I was individually attacked by significant global leaders. Prime Minister Modi, President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu. I was attacked by unnamed sources in the senior civil service. Likewise, when senior generals said, again unnamed, we will not allow him to become Prime Minister. I don't know who it was that made those remarks directly to journalists, knowing full well they'd be reported. And when a group of soldiers were undertaking target practice against a photograph of me, I was told I shouldn't worry about it, it was just normal behaviour in the army. Sorry, is it normal behaviour to put the photograph of the leader of the opposition up on a target to be shot at? It shows a general attitude amongst very senior figures in the worlds of finance, of security, of foreign policy, of economic management that doesn't want a redistribution of power and wealth in our society. It is actually quite comfortable with the fact we've got more food banks than branches of McDonald's, that we now have the most unequal country anywhere in Europe and getting worse.
This was never just about Jeremy Corbyn as an individual. It was about what he represented. A direct challenge to entrenched power and a genuine break with the status quo. That challenge was not allowed anywhere near Downing Street. Corbyn wasn't brought down because he lacked support or because his policies were fringe. They were quite popular actually. He was brought down precisely because his movement was gaining ground, because he stood for ideas that could not be easily managed or controlled. And in the end, the Labour Party turned its fire inwards. What should have been a vehicle for change instead became an obstacle to it, undermining its own leader and in the process undermining the people it claimed to represent. And there we have it. Corbyn is now out. The movement that made Labour the largest political party in Europe has been dismantled. But this leaves a question: what kind of Labour Party replaced it? What direction did it choose once the dust had settled?
You would be very unwise to believe a word that Starmer ever says.
I'm not going to rank Jeremy Corbyn. He's a colleague, he's a friend. I want to pay tribute to Jeremy Corbyn, who's a friend as well as a colleague.
Was he a friend?
No, I mean, as I say, I haven't spoken to him for 2.5 years.
In 2020, he was a friend, Sakir. He has a long record of making promises, which he then goes on to break.
We have to make the case for the benefits of migration, the benefits of free movement. We don't want open borders. Freedom of movement has gone and it's not coming back. I'm really pleased to be here this morning supporting the staff at McDonald's who are on strike.
Previously, you told your front bench not to cross the picket line. That was for the strikes back in June. Is that something you'll be saying to them again?
Yeah. Air quality, climate change is the issue of our time, and as the Extinction Rebellion protest showed us this week, the next generation are not going to forgive us if we don't take action. I think they're wrong. I think their action is wrong. Get up, go home. I'm opposed to what you're doing. It's not the way to deal with the climate crisis.
So why should you believe a single thing he says in the Labour manifesto, given that when he was running for the Labour leadership, he made a whole series of pledges which he then abandoned?
You made 10 policy pledges for this campaign. Let's see how watertight they are. Can you guarantee that under your leadership, the 2019 Labour commitments to nationalise water, energy, rail, the Royal Mail, they'll all be in Labour's next election manifesto?
I've made that commitment.
Will you nationalise the big six energy companies, yes or no?
No.
No, you will not.
I think it's tragic, not just for Keir Starmer, but actually for Britain.
Now, of course, this was the immediate reaction to Starmer being sort of the front runner to win office, right? But people were noticing his patterns of behaviour before he was even elected. Now, as of time of recording this video, he's been in office for over a year. How's that going?
They were voted in to change things, and yet there's been no change, no difference whatsoever. Tory chaos rebadged with a red rosette. You can't about for 7 years going, right, should we either tax billionaires a tiny bit more or cut disability benefits, moving 250,000 people into poverty, 50,000 of them children? What did the last guys do? Get Rishi on the phone. Cutting winter fuel payments with a sledgehammer, not a scalpel, bad political move. Rejecting a national grooming gang inquiry, then having one, handing right-wing opportunists an apparent moral victory. Twice! Bad political move. Cutting benefits for disabled people. This is not what people who voted Labour expect from a Labour government. So people aren't going to vote for you next time. And they're not going to vote Tory next time. They're going to vote Reform. And it'll be all your fault.
Starmer's policies are deeply unpopular. Instead of offering an alternative to 14 years of Tory rule, he doubled down on pandering to the right. His chief strategist, Morgan McSweeney, seems convinced that every step further right will bring Labour closer to power. That if he just copies Farage, if he copies Reform, if he copies the Tories, everything will be okay. But the reality is the opposite. This isn't what people want from a Labour government. Starmer's policies and Labour itself are more unpopular than ever before. People didn't put Labour in office to slash disability benefits or to strip pensioners of their winter fuel allowance. They didn't vote for a party that criminalises protesters and treats elderly activists as terrorists. It's draconian, it's authoritarian, and in some areas, Labour has gone even further right than the Conservatives. That's how far the party has strayed. That's how far they've abandoned not only Corbyn's movement, but Labour's own principles. And if Labour's domestic policies have been a disappointment, their stance on Gaza has been a catastrophe. Not just politically, but morally also. While millions poured into the street demanding a ceasefire, Starmer doubled down on supporting Israel's onslaught. He went on LBC to defend cutting off water and power to civilians, actions that have been condemned internationally as collective punishment. What was the response? It was a collapse of trust. Both Muslim communities and young people as well, who once formed Labour's backbone, turned away in disgust. The same people who rallied for Corbyn in 2017 now see a party that treats their protest as a nuisance to be policed, not a cause to be heard. For many, Gaza wasn't just foreign policy, it was the moment that Labour showed what side they were really on. Now, I didn't really want to cover the Tories, but if you're making a video about British politics, you can't really ignore them, so here's a quick crash course.
14 years, 5 prime ministers, 7 chancellors, 8 foreign secretaries, 13 culture secretaries, one of whom was Nadine Dorries, a woman so stupid she thinks Channel 4 is a brand of perfume. 8 Home Secretaries, including grinning exorcist doll Priti Patel, Sajid Javid, James Hilarious rape jokes cleverly, and far-right pin-up Suella Braverman. Twice! A woman who says multiculturalism has failed, even though her, Patel, Javid cleverly, Sunak, Kwarteng, Zahawi, Badenoch are proof that even if you do have brown skin, you too can become a vicious, festering, regressive, lying, greedy, nasty, eye-wateringly wealthy, but morally bankrupt no fewer than 16 housing ministers, which explains why the UK is the most difficult place to find a home in the developed world. In 2000, a home cost 4 times the average salary. Now it costs 8 times the average salary, and workers are 11 grand worse off a year after 15 years of almost completely unprecedented wage stagnation. We've gone from 29 billionaires to 177 billionaires, whilst the working classes endured crippling austerity, the highest taxes in 70 years, lowest corporate taxes in 50 years. The rich are richer and the poor are much poorer, and your average high street is boarded up. We've endured David Cameron's hubris, Theresa May's chaos, Boris Johnson's lies, and Liz Truss throwing £30 billion of your money down the shitter. 100 billion in lost trade due to Brexit, 40 billion in lost tax revenues due to Brexit, whilst our farmers and our fishermen were sold down the river. The worst trade deficit since records began, and our national debt is now at 3 trillion. Average student debt has gone from 5k to 50k, homelessness has doubled, child poverty has tripled, highest energy bills in Europe, with 6.7 million people currently living in fuel poverty. Highest train fares in Europe, lowest state pension in Europe, longest waiting lists in NHS history. They closed and sold off our fire stations. They closed, then sold off our libraries. They didn't build those 40 new hospitals, and they forced councils into bankruptcy. They wasted billions on HS2. They voted to allow bankers to have unlimited bonuses.
So yes, the Tories have collapsed, but Labour haven't offered a real alternative either. The party that once promised change now promises little more than managed decline. And when both sides of Westminster fail to inspire, this vacuum doesn't stay empty for long, it gets filled. And in Britain, there's always one man ready to seize that vacuum, the opportunist in chief, the self-styled insurgent, the Donald Trump of England, so to speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nigel Farage.
Now, he isn't new. He's been around for decades, but he's perfected the same trick again and again, turning chaos into opportunity and anger into votes.
I come to you from the United Kingdom with a message of hope and a message of optimism. It's a message that says, if the little people, if the real people, if the ordinary decent people are prepared to stand up and fight for what they believe in, we can overcome the big banks. We can overcome the multinationals.
Ordinary people, decent people, mate, give me a break. This is a man who, according to multiple outlets, has earned more than £1 million a year from outside work, without even being in Parliament. Multiple outlets have reported he was receiving close to £100,000 a month from GB News, a figure Farage himself has publicly denied. However, that's not the wages of the working class, that's the lifestyle of the elite, and yet he's managed to convince millions that he's somehow on their side. It's a performance, it's all a con. He wraps himself in pub talk and pint glasses, but the truth is he represents anything but ordinary people.
Take a look at the new Register of Members' Interests, where MPs have to declare which second jobs they've taken. It turns out Farage was just paid £40,000 by a US-based company called Nomad Capitalist. According to their website, Nomad's mission is to help economic migrants transcend borders. But of course, these migrants are not fleeing persecution or desperate poverty. No, they're multi-millionaires fleeing the taxman. And Nomad Capitalist is a wealth consultancy that advises them on how to qualify for passports from different countries so they can offshore their money. So, if you're a wealthy economic migrant, how can Nomad, and by extension Nigel Farage, help you? Well, Nomad say they can grow your passport portfolio and get you multiple second citizenships in different countries. They even tell people to leave your country now and dismiss America and Britain as legacy brand countries. Nomad Capitalist run the Nomad Passport Index, ranking the best passports that economic migrants should try to get their hands on, while showing them how to do it. Farage was just paid £40,000 to give a keynote speech at the Nomad International Conference in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Hundreds of wannabe taxation migrants gathered there to learn how they too can qualify for second, third and fourth passports from 28 different countries. And Nigel Farage was there to inspire them.
I was invited to speak to this group 2 years ago. This audience is about 3 times the size.
Indeed, Nomad billed its conference, the one where Farage spoke, as 4 glamorous days learning the most up-to-date offshore tax strategies. Britain is a wealthy country, but the gap between rich and poor is now, with the exception of the United States, the highest in the developed world. Our public services, like the NHS and schools, are crumbling. And one reason for all this is the ease with which the super rich can move their money overseas to avoid paying their fair share of tax. They can do that because there's an entire industry that exists to help them do it legally. And a British MP, Nigel Farage, works for that industry.
This is the real Nigel Farage. Not a man of the people, a man cashing in on the people. Forget the whole pint-holding, cigarette-smoking act, the routine where he loves to stick it to the elite in public. Let's cut through the performance.
Your partner bought the house in their name and you had nothing to do with it. It meant that the standard rate of stamp duty was paid on it.
How dare you? It's her ass. No, how dare you?
You want to be Prime Minister and your own tax and business affairs aren't exactly straightforward. Your home and your...
I'm very sorry. I take objection to the very premise of that question.
How many times have you been to Clacton?
Just exchange contracts on a house there. I'll be living there. Is that good enough?
I know that you believe and you say you want to be transparent and open. So your constituency home where you stay in Clacton is owned by your partner, I believe. And you have a...
According to multiple outlets, Farage has channeled his GB News earnings through a private company to reduce his tax bill. He's avoided paying £44,000 in stamp duty.
I've bought a house in Clacton. What more do you want me to do? What more? I mean, what more can I do? I should have said we.
You don't actually own a house in Clacton.
I should have said we. All right, my partner bought it. So what?
You said I, and that wasn't true.
All right, I should have said we. I should have said we. All right, it's her money. It's her asset. I own none of it, but I just happen to spend some time.
And he's pocketed $40,000 for a speech to Nomad Capitalists, a group that literally teaches the super rich how to minimize their taxes. That's not taking on the big banks. That's working for them. That's not standing up to the multinationals. That's selling tickets at their seminars. The truth is, Farage doesn't fight the system. He feeds off it. He is the system. He just needs enough people to buy into the pint glass, the Union Jack, the talk of freedom, while he laughs all the way to the bank.
Realisation that Brexit was a terrible mistake continues.
We're regulating our own businesses even more than they were as EU members. Brexit has failed. I'm sure
that my memory is not deceiving me, but didn't he once say this?
If Brexit is a disaster, I will go and live abroad. I'll go and live somewhere else.
It's a shame, of course, that we're not in the European Union anymore, because then there'd be 27 countries to which he could move more or less freely.
There is a running joke in Westminster that Farage is never in the UK anyway, given how much time he spends in America courting the support of Trump and his allies.
Presidency of Donald Trump's, given that the whole of his cabinet have been so rude about him over the last few years.
Well, I'm glad to see the honourable member making a rare appearance back here in Britain. He spent so much time in America recently. I was half expecting to see him on the immigration statistics when we see him back.
In Farage's most recent trip to the US, he was actually scrutinised very heavily and publicly, something the UK media seems to be incapable of doing.
How many seats does your party hold?
How many seats do the opinion polls say we're going to get next time? Is that your
no,
question?
I mean,
I see.
The numbers don't lie. You only have 4 seats, right?
I'm afraid so, yes.
And so you are indeed the leader of a fringe party.
Oh, I'm a fringe, all right. Don't worry about that. Yes, absolutely. Everything I've ever done.
And as a fringe party leader seeking to run for Prime Minister of Great Britain, you need a lot of money in order to blow up like the MAGA movement has blown up.
What you need is a message of truth and a message of hope. And
well, you need money also, right?
Money's helpful, but it's not the primary thing you need.
So the first thing that came out of...
Notice how he defaulted straight to truth and hope. Notice how quickly and aggressively he downplays the money narrative, because he knows it contradicts his whole for the people persona, his whole decent, ordinary working people persona. He knows it goes against it.
That Donald Trump's campaign benefited to the extent of $250 million from Elon Musk.
How much?
You are familiar with that, correct? And you are here today
I'm going to answer your
impress all of those tech bros, including Elon Musk. Isn't that correct?
Honestly,
you need money from Elon Musk in order to get elected Prime Minister of Great Britain. That's the bottom line.
And here's the wild part. He's not even in power. He's barely even in Parliament. Reform UK has 4 seats. 4. Yet Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has been spooked into parroting his talking points.
What do you think about companies who fire people and then hire them back at a lower wage?
That's disrespectful.
It's disgusting.
It's despicable. If you've got the money, you should spread it around.
Can I ask you what you think about 0-hours contracts with no guaranteed pay?
Yeah, I don't like that either. Disgusting, because employers take advantage of it.
I don't think it's fair. And who do you think does support fire and rehire and 0-hours contracts?
I'd say some of the big corporations. The government.
What if I told you Nigel Farage?
Shame on him.
It's Nigel Farage.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that doesn't surprise me, to be honest. No, I didn't know that. I voted for him.
Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it does a little bit. It would surprise me, yeah, because I voted him in as well. Disgusting, really. Now, he definitely ain't got my vote. Since he's been here, he hasn't done anything in Clacton, nothing at all.
Think about it. Suddenly, Labour is banging on about stopping the boats, asylum hotels, even wrapping themselves in St George's flags. That's not the language of Labour. That's the language of the far right. And why is Keir Starmer doing this? Because he's terrified of Farage. He thinks if he copies his rhetoric, he'll steal his base.
This is a guy who sort of cloaks himself in patriotism. This guy flew out to the US, spoke at a US committee, and he essentially urged the US to put sanctions on his own country. Sanctions that would hurt British businesses, British people, our back pockets. And this guy is your patriot?
But here's the flaw, right? People aren't leaving Labour because Farage is better. They're leaving Labour because Labour has abandoned them. And Farage knows exactly how to fill that vacuum. His playbook is simple. Take people's real anger at broken services, anger at years of austerity, anger at a system that doesn't work, and redirect it away from bankers, landlords, energy giants, and onto migrants, onto refugees, onto anyone who looks like an easy target. That's why he thrives on moments like this, because when both main parties have nothing to offer, people start looking for someone, anyone, who at least sounds like they're angry on their behalf. And even with just 4 MPs, Farage has turned that anger into influence. Polls show Reform climbing past everyone, right? They've got 4 seats in Parliament, but they've got 10 times that in power. And a huge reason for Nigel Farage's influence is the British media's wall-to-wall coverage of him. He is quite clearly the establishment's choice, despite being a fringe figure. Jeremy Corbyn, who's been an MP for 42 years and was leader of the opposition, has only been on BBC Question Time 3 times in his career, whereas Farage, who has only been an MP for just over a year and leads a minority party of 4 MPs, has been on BBC Question Time 38 times. How can you explain this? It is clear that the BBC, and by association the British establishment, has an agenda. They are constantly platforming Farage and his talking points, such as immigration. And then when immigration becomes an important issue for people in the polls, they wonder why. Immigration is notorious for being a lever that the elites and the establishment pulls on when they want to distract people from the real issues.
Both Labour and the Tories could have chosen stronger immigration control, but they didn't. Why? Because immigration actually makes life easier for politicians. Immigration makes it easy for politicians not to invest, not to increase wages, not to spend on education. It allows politicians to avoid responsibility and avoid investing in our children's future, because if you've got a shortage of nurses or teachers or scientists or engineers, you can just get a load of foreign ones in instead. So whilst 30,000 people crossed the channel last year, grabbing all the headlines, this government issued 1.4 million visas. Look over here. Look over here at these boats. Look at this problem that we've created. In you come. Quick, in you come. Look at this. But whatever you think about the state of this country's immigration policy, or lack thereof, what I do know is this: not a single person who arrived in the UK on a small boat is more responsible for the cost of living crisis, the state of our economy, the state of our schools and hospitals, record child poverty, record homelessness, record inflation, than the greedy, incompetent who have been running the country for the last decade or so.
It's total nonsense. The reason London is such a great city is precisely because of immigration. It's precisely because of multiculturalism. The media, by platforming Farage endlessly, has shifted what counts as mainstream. What was once fringe, such as stopping the boats and mass deportations, is now echoed by a Labour Prime Minister. That is Farage's real victory, not winning power, but by moving the entire debate. And if all of this feels familiar, it should. You know, remember Brexit, the whole bus he was on, the promises, the NHS money that never came. He sold people on a promise that never came true, and today he's selling a new version of the same trick. You know, the truth about Nigel Farage is he doesn't need to win in order to succeed. He just needs everyone else to lose. And right now, collapse is all Westminster has to offer. To counter Farage, a familiar figure has returned back into the mainstream: Jeremy Corbyn. His new party has had more people sign up to it in its first few days than Reform has had sign-ups in its lifetime. Farage has been platformed constantly and had non-stop media coverage, whereas all Jeremy Corbyn had to do was announce his return and tens of thousands rushed to sign up. People are desperate for an alternative, and this isn't just nostalgia for 2017. It's a symptom of how deep the discontent runs. With Westminster, yes, but in particular with Labour and Keir Starmer. Labour have alienated the very people who made it the biggest political movement in Europe. But these people didn't disappear, and now they're looking for a new home, and Jeremy Corbyn is offering them one. Whilst Farage thrives on fear,
we have to leave the ECHR. No ifs, no buts. We have to repeal the Human Rights Act of 1998. We will, for a 5-year period, disapply the 1951 Refugee Convention and any other barriers that can be used by lawyers in this country to prevent deportations, to prevent the right thing from happening.
Corbyn thrives on hope. Public services rebuilt, wealth redistributed, solidarity with the oppressed. Now, whether Corbyn's party breaks through or not is a different question. The media will certainly attack him, and the establishment will no doubt mobilise against him. But regardless, the fact his new party is so popular tells you everything you need to know about the legitimacy crisis facing Westminster. So here we are. 14 years of Conservative chaos, Labour purging the very people who once gave it life, and Farage circling like a vulture. Westminster isn't a house of democracy anymore, it's a void. But a void doesn't stay empty for long. Because if Farage thrives on anger, then movements like Corbyn's new party show something else. That even now, people are willing to stand up, sign up, and fight for something better. Whether that energy reshapes the future or just becomes another moment swallowed by the system is still an open question. But one thing is clear. If Britain is ever going to break out of this cycle, it won't be because of the Nigel Farages of this world. It'll be because ordinary people, fed up, ignored, and underestimated, finally decide they've had enough. If you've made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching my video. This is now my second video, and it took quite a lot to make this one. I appreciate your patience. I know I'm not the most frequent uploader. I'm a one-man army over here on this channel, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if so, please do leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I'll be replying to as many comments as I can. If you'd like to see more of my content, there's a video about Zoran Mamdani on my channel you should really tune into. Also, if you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see me make, do leave a comment, I do check. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.